4 words: make America great again. Not a policy, not a plan, a key. Turn it, and it unlocks memories, pride, fear, and belonging that were already there. Why did those words move millions? Because they fit how the human mind works. When people heard them, they didn't picture spreadsheets. They pictured feelings, the sound of factory whistles at dawn, Sunday church bells, flags at parades, friends who knew your name. That's nostalgia at work. Specifically, the rosy way memory highlights comfort and safety and lets the rough edges fade. In uncertain times, nostalgia is a coping tool. It softens stress, restores meaning, and says, we've been okay before, we can be okay again. And when a culture is already steeped in the sense that life isn't what it was, that society is sliding downhill, that best days sit behind us, that nostalgia links arms with another pattern psychologists see everywhere: declinism. Promise a return, and both instincts light up. But it goes deeper than memory. It reaches identity. We're social creatures. We understand ourselves through our groups: family, faith, hometown, nation. The moment a slogan feels like us, the brain protects it, like skin. A red hat turns from merch to uniform. The chant becomes a password. Inside that circle, defending the words becomes defending your people, your story, your place in the world. Once identity is engaged, a second reflex kicks in: motivated reasoning. We seek what confirms our story. We sidestep what threatens it. It isn't calculated dishonesty, it's the mind minimizing dissonance. When information collides with who we are, the easier path is to doubt the information. The reward systems in the brain even reinforce it. Loyalty to the tribe feels good. Paradoxically, outside attack can harden belief inside the group, not weaken it. Layer fear on top, and another switch flips. Some people carry a latent preference for order and sameness. Most days it rests quietly. But if the world feels chaotic, if norms seem to dissolve, if leaders look weak, if change feels too fast, threat wakes that preference up. The instinct is simple. Pull back to unity, find a strong protector, reassert the rules. Paint the moment as dangerous enough, and the appetite for clarity and control grows. A message that says we're under siege and we will restore order speaks directly to that feeling. Underneath, there's status. Not status as vanity, but status as orientation. Who are we in the pecking order? Where do people like me fit? When historically dominant groups sense their place slipping, culturally, demographically, symbolically, the experience can feel like loss, even if personal finances haven't changed. Psychologists call it status threat, and it's potent. If the story becomes, we used to be on top, now we're not, then again promises more than memory. It promises restoration, of rank, of recognition, of respect. Put these pieces together: nostalgia's glow, identity's shield, motivated reasoning's comfort, threat's appetite for order, status anxiety's ache, and 4 words can carry a nation-sized story. That story doesn't need a date or a data table, it needs only a feeling. We were better once, we can be better again. Listen to how it sounds in a life. A steelworker stands at the fence of a shuttered plant, fingers laced through rusted wire. 25 years of muscle memory live in his hands. The town that hummed when the lines ran is quiet now. He remembers dart leagues after shift, the hot thermos on winter mornings, the pride of providing. He hears the phrase and it lands as dignity, work that matters, a name on a paycheck, respect for calloused hands. At a rally, surrounded by strangers in red hats, he isn't invisible. Someone claps his shoulder and calls him brother. The anthem plays, and he cries without hiding it. The words didn't give him a policy, they gave him back a place. A grandmother closes the church hall after Wednesday night supper. In her childhood, the school day began with a prayer. Sundays felt sacred, and right and wrong seemed settled. Today feels complicated. Words she never heard as a girl are everywhere. Traditions shift. When she hears, "We don't worship government, we worship God," she whispers, "Amen." The four words become a hymn, not economics, but order. A promise that public life can reflect private conviction again. In her mind, great means morally legible, a world with firm lines and familiar language. A Marine vet folds a flag at his VFW post, eyes on the creases. He's proud of his service, but the country he came home to confuses him. Screaming headlines, leaders who apologize, a sense that sacrifice earns a shrug. He hears pledges to rebuild strength, to honor veterans, to stop apologizing, and something inside aligns. The phrase doesn't sound nostalgic. It sounds operational, a mission. Again means disciplined, respected, feared when necessary. Not triumphalism, belonging to something worth the scars. 3 lives, 3 different longings, dignity, righteousness, strength, braided into one reaction. The psychology is the bridge. Now step back and watch the mind in motion. Nostalgia, the past painted in warm light, a soothing frame that says home, even when the details were never so simple. It calms anxiety and knits identity together. As a personal feeling, it's often healthy. As a collective force, it can become selective, sanctifying what we loved and cropping out what others endured. Identity, the we that gives life contour. Slide a national story into that frame and the amygdala listens. Critique the story, and the brain can register threat, not argument. Symbols matter here. A hat becomes a badge. A chant becomes a bond. From the outside, it can look like costume. From the inside, it feels like family. Motivated reasoning, the inner defense attorney. It doesn't present charts, it asks, does this fit who I am? Agreement gets fast-tracked. Dissonance gets cross-examined. Loyalty brings relief. Doubt brings friction. So the mind smooths the path that hurts least. Threat and order. When cohesion feels fragile, clarity becomes a shelter. People who rarely think about authority start to want it. Lines, rules, someone to set the boundary and keep it. The more the world looks like flux, the more the appeal of a firm hand grows. This isn't a moral judgment. It's a stress response. Lower the sense of threat, and tolerance rises. Raise it, and appetite for sameness grows. Status, a quiet measure that runs under everything. If the group you identify with seems to be losing its voice, its rituals, its central place in the story, the body reads it as loss. Not every loss is a paycheck. Some are symbolic, holidays, language, norms, the feeling that people like us set the tone. Again, promises to reverse that drift. Once these levers engage, they can be amplified by repetition. Simplicity helps. Vague words, great, again, are empty containers the mind fills with its own most soothing meanings. Specifics divide, symbols unify. The brain prefers fluency, short words, familiar cadence, call and response. The things we can chant are the things we can share. This pattern is not uniquely American. Versions of it surface whenever populations feel disoriented. A vote to take back control. A vow to restore lost glory. A promise to revive empire or faith or sovereignty. The content changes. The mechanism repeats. Idealize a golden age. Name a fall. Promise a return under stronger hands. Ask the faithful to wear the story on their bodies. If you watch closely, you can see the costs alongside the comforts. Nostalgia can blind as well as bind. Identity can close as well as warm. Motivated reasoning can protect dignity but also protect error. Threat sensitivity can make us safer and also make us suspicious. Status concern can ask for recognition and also ask others to step back. The same engines that give meaning can also generate exclusion. The mind moves both ways. So what do we do with that knowledge? Not pick a side. Understand the currents under the surface. Begin where the body begins, with feelings. Dismissed fear turns hard. Mocked longing turns loud. Seen, named, and validated, those states soften. I hear that you miss what felt clear and safe isn't agreement with a program. It's acknowledgement of a human need. When belonging is the question, data rarely feels like an answer. Belonging must be met with belonging. New circles wide enough to hold old identities without erasing them. Offer futures that rhyme with what people love about the past. If pride is the point, build civic projects that let people carry it. If order is the need, create visible, fair rules that lower ambient threat without narrowing who counts. If dignity is the ache, make pathways to purposeful work and public honor. The mind doesn't trade a myth for a spreadsheet. It trades one story for a better story, one that preserves the feelings it cherishes while widening who gets them. Notice, too, that the same psychology can elevate different virtues. Collective memory can celebrate courage and solidarity, not only hierarchy. Identity can scale from shrinking tribes to layered, shared we's reasoning, can be motivated by care, by the desire to be fair to evidence when it challenges us. Sensitivity to threat can protect the vulnerable instead of punishing the different. Concern for status can become a call for mutual respect rather than a scramble for rank. The levers aren't good or bad. They're human. How we pull them is the work. Return, for a moment, to those 3 lives. The mill town starts a co-op repair shop in an empty bay of the old plant. Men and women who once worked separate lines teach each other new trades. Pay isn't what it was, but the feeling, useful, recognized, needed, returns. The slogan fades into a routine. Make something together, today. The church kitchen stacks boxes for families on hard weeks. The grandmother's prayer doesn't change, but her circle does. The value she misses, care for neighbor, walks back into the room in the form of groceries and time. She recognizes herself in the act, not only in the memory. The veteran mentors teens who think service is corny until they meet him. He teaches them how to fold a flag without rolling their eyes. The posture isn't nostalgia, it's transmission. Strength becomes less about being feared and more about being dependable. He recognizes his country in the kids who show up at 7 a.m. because he does. None of that solves everything. It does something more basic. It grounds the feelings that made the words powerful in acts that make them less necessary. When belonging is tangible, the need to perform it recedes. When dignity is daily, the ache for its symbols quiets. When order comes from fair systems, the appetite for a savior dims. In the end, the phrase mattered because it told a human truth in a few syllables. We want to feel proud of who we are. We want our sacrifices to count. We want our children to inherit more than our anxiety. We want to look at each other and recognize a shared story. The mind reaches for these wants the way a hand reaches for a banister in the dark. So when you hear those words, whispered with hope or shouted with defiance, listen past the volume. Listen for the needs beneath. Continuity in a rushing world, identity in a crowded one, order in a noisy one, respect in a leveling one. You don't have to accept every conclusion to recognize the cause. You don't have to believe in a golden yesterday to build a livable tomorrow that feels familiar in the ways that matter most. If there is a lesson in this, it is not that memory lies or that emotion misleads. It's that memory edits and emotion guides, and both can be guided in return. The mind likes stories, give it better ones. The heart likes home, make more people feel at home. The body likes safety, design it into the places we share. Do that, and the pull of again softens into the work of together. 4 words lit a fire because they warmed the parts of us that are always coldest when the world changes fast. That warmth can comfort, and it can burn. It can divide neighbors or bind strangers. It can blind us to complexity or illuminate what we truly need. The psychology doesn't choose, we do.